Hello, this is Lee back again for another review. This time we're looking at the grand finale of the largest Shimmer weekend of all time. Here is volume 44, and take a look at that cover artwork. And I'll just give you a glimpse of the inside cover. There we have the Knight Dynasty over on this side, and over here we have Lufisto and Kana, who would later become a tag team, but at this time, well, let me get to the review. This, I would say, was an excellent show. Now, if you're not a fan of brawling, that is, where the wrestlers exit the ring and begin to fight one another throughout the crowd, they will maybe grab chairs and swing them at one another and begin to just fight like a street fight, as opposed to trying to grapple in the ring. If you're a fan of that, you will love this edition, because many of the matches devolve into antics outside the ring, very violent. If you're not a fan of that, you may not appreciate many of these matches. So I'll just go through some of them and point out some highlights. I've already talked at length about many of the wrestlers already that have appeared. So if you want to see my comments on individual wrestlers, please check out my reviews of volumes 41, 42, and now 43. There's a lot of setup there. Anyway, this was the resolution, essentially, of the night, of the 4 tapings that weekend. So I can imagine the performers were very tired, and having to do these backstage side ring fights may have been very taxing, giving their last ounce of strength to land these mighty blows, to end feuds and settle scores, and attempt to take back championships. And there will be spoilers. I have to give spoilers to talk about this. So if you are planning to purchase and watch this, I would perhaps wait. But I will say that it is well worth your time, even if you know the outcomes. So here we have Davina Rose versus Kelly Skater. Now, I said before that at the time I saw these matches, especially the live show, I was not impressed with Davina Rose, and that is nothing against her personally. Certainly she was attractive, certainly excellent outfit, wonderful moves, but she just did not strike me as one who was a powerful wrestler. She seemed like a poor little lost girl who was being thrown around the ring by the other wrestlers. Now, I understand she's made quite a name for herself in the NXT division of WWE as Bayley, so I'm very happy for her. But at this time, her character did not stand out to me very much. She was more someone who was allowed to be bullied by the other wrestlers. I hate to use the term jobber. Jobbers are those who are there essentially to make the other wrestlers look strong by losing to them. There's nothing in my mind that's bad about that. Someone has to lose. Not everyone can win. And many wrestlers have done very well for themselves without winning. Kelly Skater, for example, up to this point, lost most of her matches, but she was one of the most memorable wrestlers on the card. That was new, that didn't start with the promotion, and now she's a huge star. So she generated enough publicity with the fans that they decided to make her into a champion later. So all bets are off when it comes to staged fighting. But Davina Rose, she is not a bad wrestler by any means, just merely not one of my favorites. So if I ever meet her in person, don't take it personally. I'm sure she has many more fans now. So anyway, this match, Kelly Skater, of course, up to this point had lost many matches, but was still wildly entertaining with her antics, with her attempts to put herself over as an incredible muscular athlete beyond all imagining. And she was able to make a mess of things with Davina Rose. Certainly it was not a one-sided affair, but a very impressive outcome for that non-spoiler. But it was the beginning of Kelly Skater turning into a more serious, threatening competitor in this show, in the promotion overall. Yes. Okay, the next match, Veda Scott versus Taylor Made. Now, Veda Scott, of course, now is a valet for Ring of Honor. At this time, she was kind of a plucky, unsuspecting, naive young wrestler. I didn't appreciate her matches too much either. Of course, I knew she was very new, couldn't hold that against her, but she was generally kind of a lovable goof who would be defeated rather easily by the more powerful wrestlers who would bully her. But anyway, I give her credit for paying her dues, for going through these mini matches till she could become more of a big name, I suppose, over time. So I would certainly wish her the best. Calamity versus Tomoka Nakagawa. This match I greatly appreciated. It was a return of the Tomoka Nakagawa that I remember, the very serious competitor who nevertheless would blatantly cheat, as many of the Joshi performers do. Essentially, one thing about the Japanese wrestlers that come into Shimmer is many of them are very honorable. They will honor their opponent after a good match, but during the match they become very vicious, will often cheat, and will still drive the fans to praise them. Kind of a different approach than many of the North American wrestlers, who will tend to either be either completely bad and shun the fans and cheat and just act despicable, or will be completely heroic and never ever break the rules unless the heel does first. Then they will retaliate, whereas the Japanese wrestlers don't seem to care. They will just do what they want, whatever it takes to win, and most of the time they will give their opponent credit for a good match, regardless of the outcome. So I can appreciate both. This Tomoka Nakagawa threw all of her skills at her opponent, made it a very impressive match. Of course, Calamity is like a younger, a more serious version of Lufisto. Of course, Lufisto has become kind of a comic character who nevertheless has a vicious side. Calamity has her own style, and I appreciated it very much for its uniqueness, and I'm sorry that she's no longer an active wrestler. But this is definitely a worthwhile match between the two of them. Yes. Then there was a tag team match. Ashley Lane, who I've talked about before, and Mia Yim versus Nevaeh and Sassy Steffi. Now this match, I would confess, was not heavily invested in. Again, it is not anything personal against any of these individual wrestlers who participated in the match, but some of the Shimmer performers I just really enjoy. Usually to the point of it doesn't even matter who their opponent is. If they're in the match, I will watch it, and I will enjoy it. Other wrestlers, maybe they're not my favorites, but I've seen them put on very good matches, and so I would acknowledge that particular match as one worth watching. With these wrestlers, I'm just not that into them. I know they have fans. Mia Yim at this time was coming into her own, so I would say out of the group, she was the one I think I had the most invested in. Nevaeh, I was not much of a fan at this time. She and Ashley Lane, of course, had been tag team partners, and I was not a fan of them. They seemed just very generic in my mind, more the model type that was so popular on television already, and I was getting sick of that. Now, of course, within Shimmer, there is such a variety of personalities, styles, characters, and looks, and so they fit in just like all the others, because you can have slender, blonde, all-American, stereotypical characters mixed in with your heavy hitters, your slender characters, your large, heavily built characters, your high flyers, your masked, maniacs and so forth, your hardcore wrestlers, all create the variety. But if you're just looking at the match in isolation, I see this and I think, oh, this is boring, I've seen this a million times, this is just, whatever. But that is not to say it is bad. It is just, it's what I've seen before, and I think it's what Shimmer has gotten away from, this sort of sameness. Anyway, I apologize for the rant, but this particular match, there was nothing really wrong with it. I became much more of a fan of Nevaeh later on. At this time, not a big fan. Still not a big fan, even with her turn to a more bad character from her sort of plucky, heroic tag team partner of Ashley Lane. And Sassy Steffi once more. I've shared my opinions about her. So this match overall just didn't get me that excited. There was nothing wrong with it particularly. It just didn't grab my attention like some of the others. So other viewers may disagree and have their own opinions, but there you go. Serena Deeb versus Yumi Oka. Now, this was a fantastic match. Serena Deeb is one of those characters where just looking at her, just seeing her history with WWE, I would say, oh, what's there to get excited about? But watching her in the ring, you can see she puts 110% in. And she demands the fans pay attention. And I can greatly respect the effort she puts through. And so, in spite of myself, I can't help but cheer for Serena Deeb. And in a match with someone like Yumi Oka, who I'm such an instant fan of, it's hard to decide who should I cheer for. They're both great, and they bring out the best in one another in this match, I would say. So very, very impressive. Technical wrestling, grappling, striking, just everything that you could imagine. They really showed off their skills. This is one of those matches where if you watched it in isolation, you thought, wow, what are they doing in this promotion? This is amazing. So very good. Very good overall. Then there was a tag group tag match. Mischief, Christina Von Eerie, and Allison Danger, and Leva Bates. And she brought out a cardboard cutout of Ed Wood from the Twilight series. This was at a time in North America where there was a vampire craze. Now, vampires are creatures that are undead, I think. They draw blood that they live upon, and other crazy things. These characters are fantasy. Nothing like this exists. But of course now the big thing is zombies, the Walking Dead and so forth. But anyway, this kind of came out, and this just goes along with Leva Bates' character as the nerd or geek who likes to say, oh, look at this little thing I'm interested in. It has very little to do with the match, but it's simply part of her character. She's a wrestler, but she can't help, flaunting the comic books and the television references and movie outfits and things like that. And of course, Allison Danger goes right along with it. The two of them are often coordinated in their outfits. They've come across with the Back to the Future characters and Doctor Who, Dr. Seuss, and many other references, so it's almost a guessing game of what are they going to come up with next, and little jokes that they play throughout the match. So they're kind of the goofy characters. Some effort was made in a backstage segment, which was very goofy, where they tried to, they were playing with a remote control Dalek, who is a little robot thingamajiggy from the Doctor Who series, and Mischief kind of wanders in, and she sort of sees what they're playing with, and kind of like becomes their friend because she likes to play with the toy. It was very hokey, very goofy. It reminded me of something like Revenge of the Nerds or Frankenstein. You'll have to see it. I don't think it adds much. It almost seems like one of those things where the wrestlers were just clowning around and they recorded it and thought, let's just throw that in for fun. Kind of like a B-roll. Who knows? But anyway, it was a way to explain why Mischief and Christina Von Eerie would team up with Regeneration X and then confront the bad girls on the other team. Melanie Cruz and Mina Libra, of course, the Giants, who, again, I wish were more fearsome and not merely cowardly bullies. Of course, there's a place for bullies in wrestling, certainly. Alongside Bone Saw and Shanae. Now, Bone Saw has nothing to do with the character from the Spider-Man film, the Bone Saw character played by the late, great Macho Man Randy Savage. This Bone Saw is a solidly built woman. She actually spiked her hair for this match, so she could fight, I suppose, Christina Von Eerie with her mohawk haircut. So that was a nice touch. I'm sure they coordinated that ahead of time. And then Shanae, who likes to wear leopard outfits, and she also appeared in one of the Joshi for Hope wrestling shows also. Anyway, this was a very good match. You had a lot of brawling, a lot of tough tactics between the two teams, and I think it was very hard-hitting and entertaining as far as tag matches go. And let's see, moving on. Jessie McKay and Hiroyo Matsumoto, very entertaining. Hiroyo, of course, I've talked about before, coming out with her usual bravado and her very large Japanese flags. And the streamers, of course, for her, and her huge fan section led by the wonderful Joshi fans. Anyway, Hiroyo is very vicious. She really takes it to Jessie McKay, much more slender, much more delicate acting, but nevertheless tough wrestler. So good match overall. Jessie McKay is one of those characters. She has a bit of she's similar to Davina Rose in the sense that you see just, oh, this pretty little girl, what is she doing in a wrestling ring? But she really is very powerful. She knows how to fight back and win her matches. She's very good. But Hiroyo doesn't take her seriously at first, so the two of them have to go at it. But overall, very entertaining match. I think the Joshi wrestlers are the gold standard. Whenever they go into a match, the opponent knows that they're in for a fight. And so, if anyone can go the distance with one of these Japanese wrestlers, this tells the fans that they are of great quality. And so if they win, even more so, what a push. Because these Japanese wrestlers come and go. They can go back to their home country and fight other Japanese wrestlers who are at the top of the heap, the best in the world. But if anyone can hang with them, even for a time, it shows what they're made of. So, very good overall. Rarely do these type of matches disappoint. Courtney Rush versus Sarah Del Rey. Now, the two of them would eventually team up. This match was very goofy at the start. Courtney Rush was trying to be Sarah's friend and trying to get her to smile and to do a little dance-off kind of thing. It was very silly. I think at this point in the night, they were trying to lighten the mood a bit, and that's okay. When you watch it now, it kind of grates on me a little bit, but the outcome of the competition, if you will, was satisfying. I was wanting Sarah to kick her in the face, and spoiler, she does. So there you go. Next, we had a rematch between Athena and Mercedes Martinez, and in the past I've expressed my admiration for both of the performers. This was a good follow-up to their previous match. It was very brutal. Once again, the violence was increased in this. There was a point, spoiler, where Mercedes brings out a folding chair to attack her opponent, and this was the definitive turn to the dark side for Mercedes, a woman who had for a long time been floating on that edge of just simply loving violence a bit too much, still being beloved by the fans, but not quite crossing the line into an outright heel or villain. Now, the thing about Shimmer is the Berwyn Eagles Club is made up of many chairs that the fans sit upon, but the style of the chair has a nice cushioned seat, a cushioned back, is fixed, it cannot be folded. Many of these wrestling shows, every fan is sitting in a standard metal folding chair, and so when a wrestler grabs one and attacks his opponent with it, it makes perfect sense. Oh, everyone has a chair. Here, it is quite obvious that someone brought a folding chair specifically to attack their opponent in the ring, so it's a little bit amusing. I think Tomoka Nakagawa did something similar to this in the past, but he brought a green chair that was designed, it had little demon face on it and little streamers wrapped around it. It looked like she brought it all the way from Japan on the plane with in through her luggage. It's a small little chair specifically for attacking people. Well, it wasn't quite that extreme, but Mercedes bringing the chair out was a bit silly, but nevertheless, it got the point across that now she is all bad. And at first, I don't think I really bought her as a villain. She seemed a bit uncomfortable with that, just going over the line a little bit too far. But perhaps this was done intentionally to show that she was not quite as evil, as irredeemably evil as many characters are portrayed. Just a bit of instability. And this can be a weakness too, because she's not completely bad. And occasionally she'll smile, and the fans will say, "Oh, she smiled," and then she just tries to get serious again. I don't know. It's an interesting psychology, but just watch for that as you see the match. And the chair actually comes into play later on, as I'll say. Okay, Lufisto versus Kana. Now, I am a fan of both Kana and Lufisto, so perhaps I'm biased, but I would say this was probably the match of the night, at least where this volume is concerned. Certainly the previous volume, very good. This particular match was excellent. Lufisto comes out, and she's not dressed in her traditional goofy costumes. She'll often do the kind of I don't know what character you would use, but these like doll-like skirts and goofy pigtails and things like that. Just kind of childish characters. Her outfit this time resembles more of a street fighter, like a Chun-Li, video game type character. And you can see her nervousness, you can see her anticipation, the respect. I believe there's even a moment where she prays. She is so serious, and I read, I believe, or heard somewhere, that she actually is a great respecter of Kana in real life, and it was such an honor for her to be in the same ring competing with her. Now, of course, these are stage fights we're talking about, but still, there's sometimes you have figures who will watch one another's work, and then when they work together, it's such a meeting of equals, of peers. The competitive spirit comes out. It's like they want to make each other look, the best that they can be. So it's that feeling is tangible. It comes across as very authentic. And of course, Kana is still in the stage. Later on, the two would team up. Kana would become more kind of fun-loving and clownish at times. She would share in Lufisto's antics. And at times, Lufisto, of course, has a serious side, which is what you see a very impactful match between the two of them. It's almost as if the Japanese character that Lufisto, the character, portrays, she wants to be, it's like she's a Westerner who wants to be a Japanese anime come to life. But then she meets an actual Japanese fighter, and she kind of becomes that character, rather than someone pretending to be that character, if that makes sense. So I could talk on and on about this match. It was hard not to go through and watch all of them over and over again, just because they're so good. So, then we have Brittany and Saraya Knight finally not teaming up, but fighting one another. And of course, in the previous volume, we had seen the very long brawl between the two of them, where large amounts of security were brought in to pull them apart, and they came together in this very brutal match, full of brawling. Weapons came into play, and I believe they did a similar match like this over in the UK, but here the roles are reversed. Saraya is the bullying mother. Brittany is the child who was raised to be bad like her mother, but finally was pushed too far and was forced to stand up for herself, and the fans took her side. And even though the two of them are both very brutal, rule-breaking fighters, nevertheless the sympathies of the fans were with the daughter against the mother. And so, while at times it was hard to watch, if you imagine the family as something sacred being attacked, at the same time seeing the daughter come into her own and out from under the yoke of her upbringing certainly was very dramatic to see. Yes. And then we have the Shimmer Tag Team title match. Yumi Kurihara Yakamada versus the Canadian Ninjas. Of course, Nicole Matthews and Portia Perez. And this was not as exciting, I would say, as the previous tag team match, but nevertheless very worthwhile. I've come to appreciate the Canadian Ninjas. Of course, they cheat, they backstab, you love to hate them, and here they are. They're not very impressive in terms of size, but nevertheless you know that they are formidable opponents, and whether they're cheating or fighting fair, they are nevertheless a challenge. And the Joshi wrestlers, you can tell that they do not respect the Canadian Ninjas at all, nor should they, but nevertheless they cannot underestimate them. This was a very worthwhile match, and I've come greatly to appreciate the Canadian Ninjas and what they can do. I think they cheated for so long, their wrestling skills have caught up to the point where even when they're not allowed to cheat, you can see that they do have skills, they do have abilities. Don't let their cheating fool you. They take shortcuts, but that's not all they can do. Anyone can sucker punch someone else, but what if your opponent recovers and strikes back? Then what will you do? So, worthwhile match. And then the Shimmer title match. Here are the spoilers. Cheerleader Melissa becomes the new champion. There you have it. The long reign of Madison Eagles ends in this volume. And this was a show I missed. I knew something was going to happen. As soon as I would go home, the title would change. That's just how it went. But I can appreciate this match very much. Again, there was a lot of brawling, a lot of going outside, even into amongst the fans to fight, throwing one another. I believe there was even a point where one of them was thrown against the merchandise table, and those DVD cases, I'm sure, broke. I don't know if they were half price after that. Broken by, Mercedes Martinez, and broken by, Madison Eagles' face. Cheerleader Melissa broke this one. I don't know what they did because I wasn't there in person. But nevertheless, this match, as with others, went out into the crowd, went outside the ring, and I think they had to one-up the other matches, because so many of the others had done this too. I thought, are they going to run out of things to do? But they grabbed the barricades, and they dislodged the barricades. Madison Eagles was thrown to the ground by cheerleader Melissa, and she piled chairs on top of her. It was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, but fun, and I'm sure for the fans, it was a thrilling conclusion to all of this chaos they had seen for the last 14 hours. I'm sure they were exhausted, and so were the wrestlers, but they gave it their all. They did everything they could to make this a really special weekend. And when Chili and Melissa won, it really seemed dramatic, like a true triumph. And there was even a point where she's trying to get the belt on. She can't quite do it. She turns around, and one of the fans helps her buckle the belt around her waist. A good moment, captured on film, or recorded on digital tape, I should say. But anyway, as a conclusion piece to the series, I think this is wonderful. And it does stand alone, but I think it is greatly strengthened by seeing Volume 43 prior, and of course 41 and 42 are so good that if you combine them all into one marathon, you will see the best that Shimmer has to offer. Truly, very good example of their quality. And I also think it's interesting, the visual quality itself. When you see the previews from previous matches, you see, as you watch the digital versatile disc, before a match, before a big feud, they will show, what happened in the past, and they'll show clips from other volumes. You can see the video from a previous volume. The quality will be a little fuzzier, not quite as colorful. And then you see the new video, and it's crisp and clean and sharp. So the quality of the cameras that they were using, I think, increased with the earnings. They were able to afford better cameras over time, certainly in their history. So anyway, overall, very good product. Again, of course, this is an independent wrestling company. They don't have the money of a TNA or a WWE, but nevertheless, they do what they can, and I think what they do very well. So I would commend everyone who was involved in creating this, and also the fans that participated. They were so excited. I'm not sure any volume since then has lived up to the hype of this largest Shimmer weekend of all time, but I think that's okay. I don't think they could. Certainly, there have been many wonderful shows since then, but overall, for my money, and perhaps for yours, this is where it's at. So thank you for sitting through these reviews. If you haven't seen my others, please check them out. 41, 42, 43, and now 44 is completed. So other reviews will be coming in the future as I get time, and I may have to rewatch some of these older matches that I haven't seen in a while, but I don't mind that at all. It is truly wonderful. So thank you for listening once again.